Hello, my name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. Today I want to talk about data privacy and spatial computing. So, spatial computing is in the news now because Apple came out with their Vision Pro headset, which is an augmented reality headset that they are putting out for developers to see what types of applications that they can make with it and what they could do with it. This is definitely a new era in computing, even though spatial computing has been around for a bit. It hasn't been around in this way. So basically, spatial computing is computing that requires interaction or has the capability to give interaction between objects, technology, a person, and their environment. So that may mean that part of the computing may include using your voice for computing, your movements, your senses, gestures, and doing computing things. Also, in these types of spatial computing things, your environment is very important. So it's important that the person who is wearing a headset, for example, that they always have a sense of where they are in the experience. So different headsets or different applications have different levels of immersion. So as opposed to, for example, let's say watching a movie on a TV screen that's a couple feet away from you, you may have a experience within a headset that is more immersive. So truly surround in terms of visual, truly surround in terms of your senses or sensory things. The Vision Pro headset, although some of the images show more everyday type of uses, I think this is really focused toward business. So business applications in terms of maybe in education, collaboration, training, definitely in things like architecture, where maybe instead of building out expensive physical models, they can actually be seen in a type of augmented headset. A lot more around spatial computing. I know Apple with their Vision Pro has done a lot to make sure, for example, that a lot of the private information that people are, private information is being captured around people in terms of how they log in, what they're doing on those experiences. They're trying to keep that information in the headset or on the headset so that it's not being transferred to third parties. But the issue with spatial computing is that you're basically collecting a lot more information that was never collected before. So even if someone's personal information is not being transmitted in terms of how they log in and the way that we typically think about personally identifiable information, maybe in a particular experience, that personally identifiable information is the way that you move your head, the ambient sounds in a room, things like that. These also, especially if they're augmented, are mapping your space and your environment. So that's also information that was never captured before. This also has neurological implications in terms of how do people move their head, how do they move their eyes, what types of things get people's attention. So I think it's opening up a brand new world of how people think about computing and also being able to collect a lot more information that was ever collected before. I think that these types of spatial computing uses, especially as they become more mainstream, will become the subject of more maybe privacy regulation, because there really is nothing quite like it right now. And I think that as these types of things become more ubiquitous in business use, and then eventually consumer use, we'll be asking a lot of questions about these experiences, the types of data that's collecting, and how people can have more transparency and control over this data. That's it. Thank you.